Enslaved people responded to and resisted slavery in all kinds of ways all the time. They did this in sort of huge, extraordinary ways every now and then. So sometimes enslaved people risked their lives by gathering together and revolting. They might do something like Nat Turner's Rebellion, which happened in Southampton County in Virginia in the middle of the 1800s. And that was a really unusual and really extraordinary event in U.S. slavery because there was a lot of long-term planning that was involved. Nat Turner gathered together a bunch of enslaved people that he trusted and said, let's rise up, let's totally disrupt the system, let's kill all the slaveholders, let's change the whole world. The Haitian Revolution is another example of that. We're going to change the whole world. Tacky's Rebellion, the Christmas Revolt, these are big revolts that happened in the Caribbean and the U.S., but those were really rare. Most of the time, enslaved people did what we call everyday resistance. So they resisted slavery in tiny little ways every day. So enslaved people might, if they were picking cotton, they might pick really slowly and just not pick a lot that day. They might, if they were asked to go get water from the stream, they might walk really slowly so that they had a little more free time while they were on the walk and they were on their own. They might do things that were extreme, but still subtle, like they might poison the food of the person who owned them or just make them kind of sick, things like that. But then the other thing that I think is really important when we think about resistance to slavery is that enslaved people stayed alive and they survived and they made families and they made communities and they created this amazing thing that we now know and love called Black culture. So, when enslaved people were stolen from their homelands and ripped away from their families and put on boats and taken for months and months across this totally harrowing journey of crossing the Atlantic on a boat, which is hard to even imagine today. They showed up in the Americas and they were sick and they were starving and they were tired and they were so exhausted and sad and spiritually broken. And yet they sang songs and they fell in love and they had children and they prayed and, they developed religious practices and musical practices and cultural practices to survive. And so I think that's the most important way that enslaved people resisted slavery.